What is going on, everyone? Thanks for joining. Hope y'all like the new layout here. Um, really excited to be releasing tomorrow. Kind of wanted to just jump on live and give y'all a little demo of what's to come. I really believe in this product, in this application. I mean, uh, the logic behind everything, and how everything's set up. I think is gonna really wow everyone, and really want to position myself here as the while everyone's struggling to set up their AI trader, their own little AI agents. I think I've pretty much demoed the infrastructure here, and how easy it is to kind of spin one up, all through Coinbase. That's where majority of um, flow comes from. As far as crypto, through multiple exchanges. I think it's one of the leading ones. As far as the ETFs go, and whatnot. So decided to use the Coinbase platform. There's a lot of things upcoming uh, to build on and add tons more features. So kind of just want to go over what we got going on here. I'm going to let a couple people hop on the stream for a little bit, get myself situated here. Trying to get everything set up for y'all, and I think we're good to go. So we'll give the chat a few minutes to hop on in. Get the jams going. Let me not play Scrim this time. I'm just gonna find some leagues. What kind of leagues y'all want to listen All right, we can get started now. All right. Okay, so we are live. The Nexus framework telemetry is locked in. We finally exited the secondary flush. I believe so. You know, looking from previous session, we flushed pretty hard. 1965 here. Got a few. Got a few people leveraged already. 25x. You know, so people are long here. Apparently, we've exited the secondary flush, entering a passive accumulation phase. But don't mistake range-bound apathy for a bull market. Okay. Here's a quantitative breakdown of the current institutional posture. All right, let's look at the macro tide. We've been seeing the price stabilize at about 73K on BTC, about 1980 on Ethereum. Price has been trying to stabilize around these prices. Institutions are finally absorbing the sell side pressure, but let me be clear, this isn't aggressive accumulation. All right, this is the truth serum showing us that distribution is exhausted. We're waiting for the 5,000 unit trigger flow impulse before the framework flips from veto to active. So it's not taking active long trades currently because we haven't seen the 5-minute time frame increase as far as CBD. Apparently, we're at about, let's see here, and I just simply asked, you know, our Nexus agent, you know, why are we still in this short if, you know, we're seeing accumulation around these levels? And apparently it's waiting on the 5-minute time frame because keep in mind, whenever we, you know, whenever Nexus finally closes a trade, whether it's a win or loss, you know, that trade gets dissected. We look back at the current, or sorry, we look back at the trade when it entered, and we look at the current market right now and see how, you know, see how conditions are looking now, and pretty much breaks down its tools and gives it a lesson. So its lesson here has been it's not going to be entering longs unless it gets a confirmation of 5,000 plus in volume or in CBD accumulation. Right. Sorry about that. My dog is wilding out. Just want to show everyone here. The text is a little small because I am trying to make sure we're not cutting off anything important here. Crucially, the tier 4 trigger flow. What it's talking about here is before it even takes a trade, it has to synthesize across 5 tiers. The fourth one being the trigger flow. So currently, the 5-minute time frame was at around 1,600, remains nearly 70% below the 5,000 unit reversal threshold. So it's only going to reverse here on this open trade if we get confirmation of the trigger flow going above 5,000. All right, so let's look at the, so we got an active signal for the existing sell position, and it claims hold. The rationale here is maintaining the active sell position, just exactly the question I had, right? So it's currently monitoring every 10 minutes, you know, any active trade, any signal that's received on the 5-minute time frame that we're trading here. It looks at the macro time frame, which I've had it set to here to 1 hour. It's already set there, I don't have to change it. But anyway, it says here, let's look at the rationale: maintain an active sell position from 2012 despite the new strategy signal at 2016. 6-hour macro tide, what does that say? I'm assuming 195,000 remains the dominant gravitational force. And the current tier 4 trigger flow, so see that decrease from the last time I had asked, is about plus 629. It's significantly below the 5,000 unit structural threshold by core memory, right? That's the core memory I was talking about. Confirming the recent price action is a macro absorption at the 2015 lower volume node rather than a trend shift. So it's macro absorption according to Nexus. What the order book shows is a slight immediate bullish imbalance. The deep death. Okay, let me pull up the Discord here because I know I'm way too close to that screen or way too close to the camera. So you know, this thing can plug into your Discord easily and constantly get those vetoes. Whatever its active working thesis is on its sell signal, you know, we'd be able to see instantly live the exact millisecond that signal is triggered. So it's pretty interesting watching this in real time. Moving on with its thesis here, it says that confirming the recent price action is micro absorption at the 2015 lower volume node rather than a trend shift. While the order book shows a slight imbalance, it's a slight bullish imbalance, the deep death is nearly balanced, and the largest ass wall at 2025. We can see here 2025, somewhere around this area. We see a little bit of a darker shade here, and this is on a 30-minute time frame, so we'll come a little bit more here. Let's look at the granular details about 2025, somewhere around there. It's saying that there's overhead resistance at those levels. The daily P&L, so it's targeting a daily P&L of $1,000. In order to meet this, we must allow the trade to test the 2010 institutional bid wall. So once it tests these levels, a breach there opens the structural void toward our 1990 take profit, which front runs the major institutional liquidity. Positive annualized funding is around 5.26%, which continues to provide a carry trade benefit for our short positioning. And the 2039 stop loss, which is 3.2 times the 1 hour true range, or you know, which is the ATR, provides an appropriate buffer against localized noise. So essentially, what it's saying is that there's overhead resistance here. Right now, we're getting paid to hold our short. Positive annualized funding is around 5.26%. And the stop loss up here says it's around 2039. We can look right here. Yeah, we do see some walls right here, and apparently it's saying that it's tucked right behind that. It provides a good buffer against localized noise, so if we get any spikes up here, we are protected around these levels because Nexus you know, placed our stop loss, you know, right behind these walls here. So it's really good in the way it's managing you know, its risk. I think this thing knows exactly what to look for. You know, despite right now what we're trying to do is trade on the 5-minute time frame. You know, we want to trade as many, or sorry, we want to take as many trades as we can, considering how small we are as far as capital. You know, the capital that we're deploying. You know, I'm not trying to risk anything more, and this is the really good part about you know, Nexus. It tailors to your risk profile. If you only have $20 in the bank, hey, well, so be it. it's only going to trade with $20, depending on what contracts you can buy, right? So Coinbase, CDE, there are, it doesn't work exactly like, you know, your regular perps on an off, or sorry, on an exchange offshore. So in order to meet the requirements as far as margin and liquidity, you know, Coinbase is a little strict here. So the contract sizes for them cost different prices, right? And you can only buy one contract. You cannot buy fractions of a contract, unfortunately. So right now we're you know, custom for Coinbase. It's where I believe a lot of the that's where I believe a lot of the or at least my audience is at. You know, a lot of you guys probably have Coinbase already set up, got this done years ago, and you know, trade um, perps, you know, through maybe Blowfin or something like that, which we are going to be integrating soon. Just want to get you know, a big cast thrown on the people that I'm trying to target here, especially during launch. Okay. So anyway, looking at the macro tide, we've seen the price stabilize at about 73K on BTC and 1988 on Ethereum. Let me put y'all on a pause super quick. I apologize. I completely forgot to do one thing. Let me make sure I get the link out to X really quick. Nope, that's not it. ETP. Apologies. I am making sure I get this posted on the X. I had a post drafted here. Yeah, my ADHD is something else. Um, if y'all want me to change the music, let me know. These are unheard of songs. I love listening to leaks. So if there's anything that's said, I apologize. All right. Anyway, yeah, price, where was I at? Price was stabilizing. Sorry, price is currently stabilizing here at these areas. Around the 2019-80 kind of range around here. But apparently, Nexus is. I just want to be clear here. Nexus is pretty much saying that that this isn't aggressive accumulation. Okay. Apparently, the distribution is exhausted. Nexus isn't gonna flip long here until it reaches its 5,000 unit trigger flow impulse before, before the agent decides to flip its long signals to active. But currently it's vetoing. Overall, in general, the funding for VIP and ETP is at 0%. Around those levels. And correct me if I'm wrong. I know this is the spot, so if I need to adjust something, let me know. All right. But from my understanding, as long as I've been trading, there is a difference between the two. So even though for perps the reason with that wants to stick in this trade is due to the analyzed funding on perps. Come here. Perps contract still carries an annualized funding premium of around 5%. Yeah, that's approximately 0.014. So per 8-hour clip. So yeah, that makes sense. So we're calculating on the day here. So it takes the annualized, it takes the 8-hour clip and it calculates the annualized funding premium. So anyways, Nexus thinks that this is exactly what is needed to clear the noise. With funding rates that low, it kind of makes sense. Okay. Meanwhile, XRP is still at 11%. Retail is still trapped in long skew. on XRP. They're holding out for a reversal that the framework says isn't coming. We're targeting 1.29 to clear that final liquidation pockets. I'm going to pull that up as well. Veto is still active on XRP longs. Hey, I mean, this looks like a buy to me, but you know, it's just playing with my emotions, right? This is what the market does best. Okay. And you know, it's part of the reason why I built this. You know, despite all of the decision making and everything that I keep track of on my part, you know, before I take a trade, I'm actively validating my own working thesis. You know, so this is just a framework that I've been able to develop over the years as I've been trading, and kind of what I've applied, you know, as far as the logic and reasoning, you know, behind the Nexus AI. Not only I want to say more so the logic is like system wise and structure as far you know, as far as the framework goes, but the actual trading strategy itself is it's not. I, you know, completely hands off on that. You know, kind of develop a different system to be able to look at the data in CoinGlass directly. So every single trade that's executed, we're always validating through those 5 tiers, which ping the backend API for CoinGlass in milliseconds. We get that data back. Nexus AI will go through all of that data, look at our active trades, look at the working thesis that it's been building, look at the daily P&L, look how far it is from the target, and you know, it has all of these working factors and why it should be taking a trade. And you know, the good thing about it is that it is not black box, so you can literally see the reasoning as to why it's deciding to hold the trade. You know, and I kind of want to explain a little bit more how easy it is to actually get started on this. All you got to do once you get your once you sign up, which is a very simple process. You sign up with Google, and boom, instantly you're on your dashboard. You get a list here of your asset list. Going through, we have I have a favorites tab. These are my active strategies that I have on there currently. We can look at all. So this is CDEs, also perps as well. Coming over here to futures. This is going to get fixed, so I apologize for that. But we got all the futures basically in Coinbase pulled up. I think there's over like 70 right now, or depending on you know, what you're looking for. If it's not in the list, it'll actively ping it, see if it's available, bring it back here. So you know, typing in BIP, you know, we can easily pull that up. Once you select your asset, coming down here, you get a list of your strategies that you can automatically just deploy. So currently we have WLD trend. You can see the P&L that the strategy's been bringing across all assets. And from here, you know, we can initialize the strategy on this asset. Easily drop in the trade quantity, and again, these are contracts only. Okay, um, at least until we get all the other exchanges added, then maybe we can allow this to do like actual units. Anyways, leverage here doesn't really matter. This is for when that feature is available. Even if I put 100x leverage here, it's not really going to trade 100x leverage on Coinbase. Why? Because the max you can do is around 10. Coming in here, you can immediately add your stop loss percentage and your take profit. Otherwise, this is already all done for you. As soon as you as soon as you activate the strategy, once it's active, the Nexus AI will actually dynamically adjust your take profit and stop loss. Coming in here, we have a tripwire percent, and also a trail step percent. So tripwire basically brings the trade risk-free. So once we're in a certain once we're in profit by a certain percent, Nexus AI basically brings your stop loss down to where your entry level was, so that way it's risk-free. And trail step percent allows you to ride the momentum towards your take profit. The minute price goes against you by whatever percentage you give it, so mine is at 0.5. So if it moves up 1%, it'll close out the trade. Stop loss is actively, constantly trailing your price. So just want to explain that there. So once you activate the strategy, it'll actually come up here in your active matrix for that asset specifically. Macro time frame. If you're day trading, I would definitely recommend around 30 to an hour. Keep your trigger time frame at around 5 minutes. That's what the active strategy is going to be running on. So connected to WebSockets, it's actively, it's constantly monitoring price every millisecond. The very second that strategy signals a buy or a sell, it's working off the 5-minute time frame, it's working off your trigger time frame, which you can set at any level. So if you don't want to day trade and you just want to if you want to swing trade instead, you can easily set the trigger time frame down here, let's say to an hour, 4 hours, right? Your macro time frame always needs to be higher than your trigger time frame, so that way it has a macro overview. So whenever Nexus AI is woken up, we pass through the data for the 5-minute trigger time frame on that buy signal or sell signal, but we also give it the macro overview of what's going on. This is part of the 5 tiers that we synthesized through to be able to actively take a trade. Sorry about that. Apologies for the technical difficulties here. We're trying to get the chats posted over here. I know there's a lot of stacked indicators on here, but I have to make sure that our Nexus AI is accurately reading things. And so far it honestly is. I can't tell you guys how many times that I've ran through this trial and error, getting the systems and everything plugged up. Only took about a few weeks, definitely less than a month, couple weeks, and at first this was just single user only. I didn't have any plans of releasing this to the public at all. But I realized the potential here, not only for retail but also for institutions. And I hate to say this, retail's gonna hate me, but if you're trading with Nexus, you honestly have nothing to worry about um, when it comes to institutional trading. Um, but I really see a huge gap in the market here whenever it comes to just your regular trading bots, and the best props out there. I think it's missing out on something here that I think is really special, especially now in this agenetic age that we're living in. I think there's a lot more. Um, um, there's a there's more of a more of a rich life that we can be experiencing, not with money, but um, you know not being able to worry about constantly working your 40-hour job, saving a good amount and investing in your favorite cryptos, um, without literally without even knowing how to trade exactly. I think that's where this is going to be headed. I guess getting a little bit off topic here, but and maybe this is just the fantasy I have, but I imagine waking up one day, looking at a dashboard, and just being good, knowing that I'm good, um, knowing that the infrastructure is solid, the logic is solid, reasoning and everything is tight. So it's just a little few thoughts on where I really see this going. Kind of getting off topic here. This was just supposed to be a short live, so I just wanted to go over this really quick, and then I got to get off to the gym. Let me make sure. I plan on integrating these heat maps and the liquidation maps as well into the Nexus AI charts, just because I know we have just because I know we have lost my train of thought there. Yeah, because I know we have a lot of charts pulled up as a trader, so I'd like to be able to integrate all of these indicators directly into the map for this just to be one-stop shop. Plus we're paying for the starter, what is it, the starter coin glass, and I plan on upgrading this as we scale. That way everybody has ease of access to the data that that their agent is trading on, to validate things, make sure that everything's accurate. we're at the upper node for XPP CDE derivatives. Right above macro point of control. Yeah, holding out for a reversal. Framework saying that it's not okay. Targeting 120, targeting 129 to clear the final liquidation pocket. You know, which is insane, seeing its logic and reasoning behind this. So yeah, there's a pocket down here that it's targeting. Okay. To clear the final liquidations. So beware. I think it's seeing things that, you know, we can't see just off a glimpse. And it's, you know, actively managing and, you know, sorting through all that data constantly. Considering the amount of users I currently have, about 10, I only spend about $10 a week on API calls. You know, just, I mean, it surprised me. Okay, surprised me personally. I was expecting, you know, the amount of API calls being made here that, you know, things would cost a lot. But, you know, surprisingly, you know, using the 3.1 Flash version, you know, I think things are pretty solid as far as costliness goes. I have a lot of friends and family actively trading 5 to 6 assets at a time. So you have 6 assets that each get pinged 6 times out of an hour. You know, just imagine how much that can cost. So in order to navigate the, you know, the costs for that, what we've introduced in our strategy is a veto cooldown period. So instead of actively looking at a strategy every single minute, you know, and depending on what time frame you're on, that does happen. You know, you see a lot of automated trading strategies. They're constantly buying, selling. We want to stay in an active trade, build a working thesis, veto any new signals that come in if our working thesis is what's final, you know. So instead of getting API calls every single minute, you can literally set your veto cooldown minute here. And depending on the time frame that you're trading on, you know, you can set this to whatever. I think I'm going to set it as default to like 10, to be honest. That way you can't ping the AI every minute if a strategy decides to, you know, ping, or, you know, give the buy sell signal. So yeah, introducing that is, you know, definitely decrease the API calls that we get, even if things are a little too much for the API calls. We have fallbacks through Open Router. I do plan on switching to Open Router and giving the end user capability of changing who the provider is, all through Open Router. eventually even integrating your own API keys for the model that you want to use. That way you can control your data. Now I want to be very clear here. This AI doesn't have access to anybody's data other than yourself. Protected by row level security. Things are filtered before the call is even made to the AI. Hard coded to only grab your information tied to your tenant ID. So the minute you make a request, all of that data is already packaged and sent to the AI. It can't see anything more, even if you call on its tools to be able to retrieve your active trades. It's filtering based off your tenant ID. It doesn't know what any other tenant ID is. And if it sees that your active session is currently logged in with this tenant ID, even if you try to ping it with something else, it is literally hard coded and filtered from the very beginning anyway. So data is never being shared. API keys are locked. Not even I can access that. With the master key that we have set, there is an equation that needs to be solved. Apparently, that's how it's set up. I don't know. I just looked at dev docs, and that's just how it's set up. So it's very complex as far as security goes. Anyway, my dog's chewing on some stick. Moving on to the vetoes over here, and how disciplined this thing is. What I'm basically showcasing here is the discipline of this AI. To be able to manage your money and veto trades, not just entering willy-nilly on a dumb buy sell signal. That's the whole point here. I think that's what's going to change the game. Being able to have active reasoning instead of a black box into why things are trading. Hey, I think that's power for retail traders, especially when it comes to newer traders. This is a very easy platform to learn. Just knowing that you can ping your Nexus agent with literally anything that you want. Ask it anything about your trades. It's only trained on your information, nothing else. So whenever it's in an active trade and it's pulling lessons, it's only pulling lessons tied to your own specific tenant ID. So I think there's a lot of features in this that are really cool. The geek side of me wants to come out, but I will relax and continue on with this script here. It's supposed to be a 10-minute script, but I don't know. The vetoes are still active on XRP longs. 132 remains. Okay, yeah, 132 is the institutional ass wall that apparently it thinks that it can't cross. I don't know, man. In the 1 hour time frame, kind of already broke through that. What is it saying here? Okay. We're watching the 74,580 short liquidation cluster on Bitcoin. Let's look at the liquidation cluster on Bitcoin. So this is an analysis from earlier this morning. It's not what the current reasoning rationale is, on our active trade, right? This is just an overview of what happened overnight. With the trades, I went over its reasoning as to why it was in those certain trades and vetoing any active buy sell signals while it was in an active trade. So I kind of just wanted to see what happened overnight, and this is the data that I have so far from earlier this morning. What happened? Okay. So Nexus AI was watching the 74,580 short liquidation cluster on Bitcoin. Apparently, it's using this as the fuel for the next expansion. If it reclaims the trigger flow impulse, that cluster is the primary target. 74,580. Yeah. We reclaim the trigger flow impulse that clusters a primary target. Okay. I wonder if it set up a ghost trap because if it, you know, if it's stalking like this, then it, you know, it could be potentially looking for a short here. Actually, I turned this off recently because I was in live and didn't have margin for the weekend. I didn't want to trade Bitcoin on the weekend. I'm simply, you know, tied in too many things. You know, doing, you know, being with the launch. You know, trading was the least of my worries right now. Let's just go on paper for now, look the trigger time frame, so that we get some rationales and also showcase how easy it is to activate a strategy, right? So all I'm doing here is just telling it what the macro time frame I want it to look at is, but the trigger as far as the strategy goes, when it's being triggered, I want it to trigger on the 5-minute time frame, right? That way we can take those daily trades, we can have that active trade management. You know, comparing to, like, if we wanted to use a 1 hour for the trigger time frame, which I've done, you know, you're probably going to be taking about 1 to 2 trades and holding them to the next day until those targets are hit. You know, works flawlessly. I haven't had any issues with it holding trades. It builds its working position over a few hours, and you know, it really believes in what it's in its working thesis. So all right, strategy is activated, or sorry, we saved the configuration. Now we're going to activate it, and look how quickly your agents are spun up. So you can filter through your agent cortex, watchdog, sniper. Sniper is what's going to be attaching to your strategy, connecting the WebSockets. And you know, as soon as the sockets are connected, we'll get a log here that will populate shortly once those kick in. Basically gives you an overview, and instantly the strategy was already activated, detected a signal. And that's the good thing about this. You know, I want to be able to go in here and activate a strategy instantly. Hey, I want to trade right now. This is the amount of capital, short or long, I don't care. Just take it, you know. And look, this is where it just entered a short right here, and I want to really explain its working thesis and kind of explain why it entered this short. Put its stop loss up here, take profit down there. Because the trigger time frame is at a 5-minute, you know, these stop losses are dynamic, and it's looking at liquidity levels. It's looking at the next bid ask wall. So depending where that is at in the time frame, you know, and depending on how much capital you're trading, you know, your wins can be a lot. Your losses can be a lot as well. So like me, I did 100x on 100 Bitcoin here, and you know, instantly already in the negative. But just to give you some context, I'm 100x on 100 Bitcoin. In paper mode, whenever you trade in paper, it's using the actual price. The minute you flip to live, it's using the active contracts that trade on Coinbase. So whenever you flip to live, just be sure when you're testing a strategy, you know, you change the quantity down. And if anything, I'd want to set realistic expectations. Just because you trade on paper 100x with 100 Bitcoin doesn't mean you're gonna get the same results trading the same amount. Qu- um, 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 Quantity wise, let's say you only can afford 2-3 contracts. Because the strategy has been optimizing for 100x or 100 Bitcoin, the lessons might be a little bit different. As far as I know, quantity shouldn't affect the reasoning as to why it's taken a trade, but I know there are certain cost factors that it takes into account, which are going to be your make and take trading fees. Entering at limit, entering at limit and market, there are some fees, I believe. So we just got to keep that in mind whenever you're trading a low amount of contracts. This is my favorite song, by the way. So let me read its reasoning here of why it took this trade. And it gives that to you instantly here. It lets you know. We wait a few milliseconds for the trade to propagate. This is on both paper and live. It's needed. It's very important because if you try to execute trades in milliseconds and attach your stop loss brackets, your OCO brackets, it's not gonna work. Tested it already been through trial and error. So I really want to showcase how easy it is, and to just activate something on one of your favorite assets. What the Keltner execution does. As far as the naming goes, you can kind of get an idea of what it does. It's just simple mathematical strategies that are imported over from TradingView, converted to JavaScript. Works the exact same way. Now these are custom strategies that work with the way our trigger time frame and macro time frame is passed. Because we're doing things a little bit differently. We only want to get sell signals that come directly from our data. So not only am I passing volume and CBD and all these things in these strategies, we're actively pinging CoinGlass API and ensuring that that the data is accurate for that buy signal. No. Okay. What was I explaining? Hope the volume's not too high. I haven't checked on that. Yeah, desktop audio is pretty low. Sometimes it was just, why? No one told me? I'm just kidding. Sorry guys, I'm getting a little distracted here. I gotta go, but I want to finish this rationale of what the current trade is in. So, looking at the daily P&L, we require high probability setup to pivot toward the $1,000 targets. 6-hour macro tide is at negative 559,000. This provides a structural bearish gravity, while the tier 5 order book shows a heavy ask imbalance, which is 11,123 versus 8,476 bids. Although the 5-minute micro ripper shows localized buying plus 3,500, price is stalling below below the 74,100 major ask wall. Look at that. I mean, it's accurate, you know. Looking at the 5-minute time frame, I just want to look here. Yeah, I mean, there's an active, you know, major ask wall, 74,100. It hit. You know, if these logs get too much, you can always filter through. The agent cortex went away. That's okay. Your Discord setup, you can always look the reasoning, or you can always just ping the AI, hey, what's the reasoning on this? Why did we take this trade? And it'll explain to you why. All right. It'll look at its working thesis as to why it took the trade in our database, and reiterate what, you know, what its logic and reasoning was. Even if you ask for it to check, let's revalidate things, it'll reping all the tools that it used for that trade to validate once again where we're at in the current you know, in the current market conditions. My favorite song too from Mac. So the localized buying is about 3,513. Even though that localized buying was there, it still decided to take a short. Price is stalling below the 74,100 major ask wall. Okay, suggesting institutional absorption of retail relief. This aligns with core memory one, indicating a likely liquidity flush toward the tier 2 lower node at 73,500. Interesting. Indicating a likely liquidity flush toward the tier 2 lower node at 73,530. That lower node is also being tracked up here in your chart as well. So the same way we're tracking these nodes, look at that. So, you know, stop loss, it puts it right above that node from the top, or sorry, the ass wall there, to hide it. Look where we're at. You know, this thing has heat vision, X-ray vision. You know, it's just insane. So you know, front runs the take profit by 50% from the bids, or you know, from wherever, you know, that wall's at, depending on the side of the trade that it's entering. So take profit 73,500, 73. Yeah. So it sees all of these order blocks down here, and it's front running it by 50%. So that's why I put its take profit up here, so that way it gets a fill first, you know, and it's actively calculating its risk to reward. We mandated actually pretty recently that our veto, our R&R is always a 1.5 no matter what. That's hard coded. Just considering the you know, while in an active trade, if the AI gets another signal, not only can it decide to to just close your trade. Sorry, I got the hiccups. Not only can it decide to close out the trade, but it can adjust to take profit and stop loss if it wants. If it tries to move the stop loss and degrade the risk to reward, that is automatically AI can't bypass that. Basically, there's no workaround for AI to you know, screw you over and move the stop loss up just because it wants to stay in its trade. You know, if it loses, it loses, and then it learns its lesson, applies it to the next trade that it gets. you know, when that next signal comes through. So as I was saying here, this aligns with core memory 1, indicating a likely liquidity flush toward the lower node at 73,530. Stop loss is placed above the 74,100 wall for structural protection. Nice, yielding a R&R of 1.7. We'll monitor this trade. We'll see how it does. You know, currently, one of the active trades that we have that's live right now is Ethereum. You know, I completely acknowledge that, you know, this is, at least for me, would be a bottom, right? But, you know, according to Nexus AI, this is just distribution getting exhausted. Okay, the whole week actually, this is what it's been talking about. You know, during these range, during the ranges here, the whole past week, it'd been saying that that distribution is exhausting here, and then finally we get the flush down, and now it's saying the same thing again. So you know, I believe that what it's saying is actually happening and playing out in real time. So I think the logic as far as trading is pretty solid. You know, as retail, we're always fighting against the institutional volume here. You know, whenever it comes to flow and manipulation and the spoofing in the order book, which is, by the way, tracked by Nexus AI as well. If it detects spoofing, you know, and it gets a buy signal, but your regular bot can't see it, it's gonna look at that and see, hey, 80% of this wall has just disappeared from the last time we've checked it. Cancel order. Gonna cancel your limit order. Okay. You know, which I think is really good. It's really good risk management, and it's actively looking at these metrics, you know, in real time whenever that trade is signaled. Okay. Moving on. I really need to go to the gym already. Open interest on Ethereum apparently is at a 30-day low. Flush worked. We've de-risked the overhead. Now Nexus AI is waiting for institutional rotation at these levels. You know, yeah, I mean, looking at the 1 day, yeah, you can see we're at a crazy low down here. And you know, I think these things that AI is looking at is definitely, you know, active and accurate. So we'll see how things play out. We're waiting for institutional rotation here at these levels. If you're looking for a bounce, don't trade the mirage. Okay, don't trade the mirage. All right, that's what AI told me to say. That's what Nexus told me to say. Okay. All right, so we're not over trading here. We don't scale. Okay, we execute based on telemetry. All right, look at the logs. We're going to be live tonight. nexustradingagent.com/demo-index, and we're back to work. Andrew, Nexus, signing off. All right, peace.